Talked about identity and Web5 earlier, but you have here other things like medical records, plane tickets.
Yeah.
You mentioned titles earlier as well. What is the impact of Web5 on some of these?
So health is something that we should also take into our control. We
Hmm.
should be able to control our bodies, right? If we have ownership of our data and our identity and our metadata, then we should also have control of what we put into our bodies and just have autonomy,
Hmm.
sovereignty,
Hmm.
those concepts. Um, right now, our health records are not under our control. That's a really big problem. If you go to the doctor and you fill out all of this paperwork, they take all that paperwork and they sell all that data.
Hmm.
We should be able to hold our data in wallets that we own. And just like I described with the verifiable credential, we can show that data, but then we can also revoke access after it's been shown. And we have companies that currently hold all of our health information and they share it with other parties. And we should be able to know when our data is being accessed. And if it's being used for commercial purposes, we should be also given a piece of that monetization.
Hmm.
So, what Web5 does in regards to our health is one, we get to control our health records, but two, I believe that the future of tech also includes products that are good for our health. One example is if you're familiar with the Daylight tablet.
Hmm.
Yep. So there's a iPad-like tablet that has a screen that is designed specifically to support your health, and there's it's like an e-paper screen, and it doesn't have the flicker that sends off signals in your brain. I know it sounds real woo-woo for some people, but hey, a lot of people have seen results in switching over to this type of device.
Hmm.
I personally am doubtful about how healthy these Wi-Fi signals are for us.
Oh, for sure.
I'm definitely concerned about
Yeah.
swimming in Wi-Fi
I mean,
all
I can
day.
attest to that just on my personal health journey, but like working with a biohacker for the past year. One of the things he had me do was check the EMF of my environment. And one of the things that was definitely bothering me was sitting in my office with a Wi-Fi router behind me. When I removed the wireless distribution and just did hardwire, it was a significant improvement.
Yep.
Also helped getting it out of the bedroom, helped with sleep as well.
Right. And so with Web5 technology, part of the solution that Web5 brings is new ways to connect with each other that doesn't require harmful radiation or screens that flicker with these lights. And I'll give you some examples. There is a form of data transmission that uses light bulbs that is faster than Wi-Fi.
Hmm.
Your laptop has a USB stick plugged into it that can read data from the flicker of your light bulbs.
Hmm.
And it's private because light doesn't go outside the house. Someone can't stand outside your house and just hack into your system, right? So the designs that people are putting into place for enhanced communication between devices, it's also enhancing the ability to decide which devices we want in our home, especially when it comes to smart home devices. If you have certain types of light bulbs, certain types of routers, certain types of coffee makers and refrigerators, all of that is emitting Wi-Fi now. All of that is emitting Bluetooth and other types of radio signals that we can't necessarily see. And so part of the move to Web5 and a mesh network is things are faster and more secure because you're dealing with local connections and you are in control of the hardware as well as the software. You get to decide what that device is doing and what signals it's putting out.
Hmm.
That would be the next revolution, I believe, with hardware, and that's why we're making our own hardware. We're seeking to make our own hardware, is because we want to be able to give people the options to turn off these functions. And the reason we don't have that function now is because they get more data
Hmm.
if it all stays on.
Hmm.
That's why when you turn off your Wi-Fi or your Bluetooth on your phone. It doesn't really turn off unless you go in the settings. You can't take the battery out of your phone because it's working in the background all the time. There's all we can go deep into the hardware side and the connectivity side, but holding your own health records and then also using technology that's better for your health, that's the goal. Yep.
Very cool. So, Web4 P2P technology, is that something we've already touched on this, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, but I've got here a demo that I can show you.
Okay.
So this is something that we've developed in Austin, and this is a mobile Bitcoin node. This is a Bitcoin node in a lunchbox, and it also has a private and secure open source cloud in it. So imagine if you went to Burning Man and everyone is setting up base camp and people don't have cell service. Your devices are basically bricks. You can't even play games if you don't have cell service these days. Well, this puts out a mobile Wi-Fi router. You open up the box. You remove the Wi-Fi. You turn the Bitcoin node on. And now there's a website being broadcast from this Wi-Fi device that allows you to be able to communicate with your friends off-grid with no internet connection, peer-to-peer, using a mesh network. And if you have Starlink, you can plug that Starlink into the router, and now you have internet for everybody around you who is within reach of this device. If you have a mesh network Wi-Fi router system, you can do 5,000 square feet of internet for everybody there, with or without an outside connection. Even without any internet connectivity, the server that's in this box will produce a website that you can use for sharing video, audio, files, anything that you can imagine. And if you have people who are going deep into the woods, or maybe they're going across the playa to go look at things, there's also these mesh-tastic devices which communicate to the Web5 Bitcoin node. This is really what we mean when we talk about Web5 and Web4 working together, is it gives you all of the benefits of the internet, but sovereign, under your control, and it can never be turned off. You can carry around your entire DJ library and DJ from anywhere with this. And in the future, when Web5 is fully alive and people are receiving value for sending traffic from node to node, this mobile node will be able to be deployed in places where there are not a lot of saturation of nodes. And now you are collecting even more transactions by relaying traffic from one node to the other in places that are maybe more rural, not necessarily in a city.
So then is that the vision for mesh networks is a lot of devices like this interconnected?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then signals can just hop from across the mesh basically, so that the mesh network becomes the internet in a way.
Exactly right. Yeah. If anyone here is familiar with Tor, it's very similar. People run a server and those servers are connected. It still travels through regular internet lines, but that's because Web4 hasn't been built yet.
Yeah.
Once we have hardware and connectivity that we own and operate, we'll be able to really utilize these networks to its fullest potential. Another example of that would be a television device that we're working on. So this would be an alternative to Apple TV or Roku. You plug this Bitcoin node into your television and you run all of your media through it. It aggregates all of the media on the web, and you can also sign into your streaming services. You can do anything with this device. Anything a computer can do, this can do, because it is a Bitcoin server. It is a Bitcoin node. And so if you can imagine every television in America having one of these plugged into it, we would have that mesh network. And many of these networks could be wired. It doesn't have to be Wi-Fi. It could be laser. It could be LoRa. It could be ESP32. There's so many different ways to communicate. If every Bitcoin node was running a mesh-tastic device near it, plugged in, Bitcoin could never be turned off. And transactions would be able to propagate anywhere and everywhere.
Wow.
I recently had someone ask me about if you had an army person out in the field and they were sending messages back to their wife, what would that look like? And what that would look like is we have a bunch of guys using graphene phones, and those soldiers would all communicate to each other for free on a mesh network, phone to phone, peer to peer. And one of those guys would have a satellite connection or some kind of connection out to the rest of the world. And that's where the fees kick in. You would select your contact on your phone, see how much the fee would be, kind of like sending a Bitcoin transaction. That soldier would send the message, the photo, the whatever, and it would travel through this mesh network from satellite to some location nearby where his wife lives. And then it would travel over mesh network to his wife. So it doesn't need to be just mesh all the time. Obviously, there's oceans, there's all kinds of places where this isn't totally feasible. But the ability to send traffic and receive traffic from anywhere, or at least if you're nearby, being able to communicate peer to peer, that really unlocks the internet as far as our ability to communicate without a third party being involved. And that's why the internet service providers would run nodes on satellites and other places to be able to take these transactions and make the internet more robust.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.